All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Wilmington School Committee. All members are in attendance with the exception of Mike Marcaldi. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, brings us to our student representative report. Ms. Benoit.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me once again. The Drama Club put on their student scene showcase. There were several scenes from different musicals, and it was all student directed. Senior prom was a complete success. Students had a lot of fun, and promenade went wonderfully. Thank you to everyone who helped organize the wonderful event. The art show was also held. Many talented students from WHS had their artwork displayed at the event. The annual band and strings concerts were also held. The band concert was another huge success, and members of the band were also given the opportunity to honor Miss D, who is retiring this year. Mr. Ferrara had a song composed to honor her for her many years of teaching students. The song, With Grateful Hearts, was played by the high school band. The strings concert also went great and honored the graduating seniors. The chorus concert was also put on at the high school and went wonderfully. The Special Olympics were a great day for everyone, and thank you to all volunteers, both student and staff. Students and staff worked together to make sure that it was an amazing day, along with Pat the Patriot and the cheerleaders who attended as well. There were many towns in attendance, and many classes came out to watch and support as well. AP exams are completely done now, and it was hopefully a great success for everyone. Results will be released in early July. This also means that seniors officially took their last classes. This week, project presentations begin. Students have been working hard for the last several weeks, and I'm sure the presentations will be great. On the 28th, the Internship Expo will be held, where students who completed internships will show presentations in the gymnasium of their experiences. This week has been filled with many award ceremonies. On Monday, the World Language Awards were held. At the ceremony, students were awarded for their accomplishments in their World Languages class. On Monday night, the annual DECA Award ceremony was held. The new e-board was honored and awarded. And yesterday, the NHS ceremony was held. The juniors were officially inducted into NHS, and seniors received the stoles and tassels that they will wear on graduation day. It was a wonderful ceremony, and thank you to Ms. Buckland, our speaker and honorary inductee, who gave a wonderful speech about the pillars of NHS. The school also hosted a teacher sign-in day. Seniors who will be attending college in the hopes of becoming a teacher themselves signed in as teachers. They also invited a teacher of theirs who had inspired them to come and support. The class of 2024 is also very proud to have 3 Eagle Scouts. Adam Yelson, Evan Woltag, and Tyler Kazuba have all earned the title following years of scouting and an Eagle Scout project. The Environmental Club will be starting a composting program at WHS, and many students volunteered to help sort. The 20th annual Freshman History Fair was held. First place went to Aiden Raposa and his project on arches and art in the Sistine Chapel. Second place to Emma Callahan with Renaissance Architecture, and third to Parker Canavari with the Journal of Genghis Khan. Hannah Bryson was organizing a 3-day clinic for any girls who are interested in wrestling. Summer enrichment course registration is open, and students who are interested are encouraged to sign up as quickly as some classes are filling up. 10th grade MCAS took place this week for math, and I'm sure all the students did wonderfully. Thank you again for having me. Is there any questions?
Questions or comments?
One quick one. The Special Olympics event was fantastic. I think it was like 240 students. Was that the number?
Yeah.
It was amazing, fantastic. It was a great day and really, really impressively well run. All that, very great event.
Yeah. A lot of students were looking forward to it, so it went very well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 4, our consent agenda, and we'll go through most of this in one shot, but we'll save the trip for a special independent discussion. So we have approval of minutes from the May 8th, 2024 regular session meeting. We have warrants, grants 32, 33, 34, and 35, revolving 60 through 63, local 96 through 99, food service 62 through 66, circuit breaker 29 and 30, special education 58, 59, and 60, and payroll for May 22nd, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Turner, second by Mr. Samaha. All in favor? And that is unanimous. And that brings us to international field trip to London, April 2026. Ms. Narayan, Ms. Brindaville, please join us.
Hi, we're back. Different trip this time.
Yeah. Similar presentation.
Yes.
Different trip.
Yes. All right, so I'm Samantha Prindaville, and I am the high school drama club advisor.
I'm Tejasvi Narayan. I'm a high school math teacher here.
And we are proposing a trip to London in April of 2026.
This trip would be for all students in 9 through 12 that are involved in drama, orchestra, band, chorus.
And the fine arts.
And the fine arts. So a more broad trip than the Greece trip, covering all 4 grades in 2026. We all know why educational travel is beneficial. We'll talk about why London.
Yeah, so London is one of the epicenters of theater, and it's not really talked all that much about here. And so I thought a really great way to kind of experience a different side of theater. I've taken the kids to New York City, and Tejasvi is going to Greece, which, you know, is definitely like where theater started. But also London has such a rich cultural arts, center that we thought it would be a really cool trip to encompass 9th through 12th graders.
This would be our itinerary. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah, sure. So the plan would be to leave on the Friday or Saturday, go, get to England, do a tour. The hope is going to be to see various shows on the West End, which is kind of like the equivalent of Broadway. Do a theater workshop at the Globe, go to different museums, art galleries, as well as sneaking in a performance by the London Symphony Orchestra or a rehearsal. And also, I forgot to include this, but a great idea was brought up, but also seeing Academy of St. Martin in the Fields.
So we talked last meeting about how travel dates work with EF, but for us, because of April vacation, we definitely we need to leave at a certain time, a little bit more obviously. So April 17th would be the earliest, April 25th would be the latest we return. That would ensure we don't really miss school at all. And I'm sure we'll
recover from jet lag.
Yes, exactly.
That was my very.
The same things are included: airfare, hotels, meals, lunch and dinner. Breakfast and dinner are included. Tour director, transportation, all of the entrances to everything. And again, same thing. Students would be responsible for passports, baggage, extra baggage fees. Their checked bag is included, and then tips and snacks.
So for safety. Education First takes care of everything, and they have global partners all throughout the world, as you learned also a couple weeks ago, and the communication between the tour guides and us are really very communicative, and so we don't see a problem with how especially with London being how it is currently, we think that it's a pretty safe place to travel to, but there's always support and help from the tour company in case something were to happen.
Yeah, from the get-go, when parents sign up, they will have access to a travel support number, whether that's while the kid is on the trip or not yet on the trip, so they can reach out to EF at any time about anything. Also, same thing, they have a college credit that students can sign up for through SNHU. They have college essay help for if there are juniors or seniors going on the trip. And they can also get high school credit through
through their accredited high school that they work with.
And the group leaders would be myself, Faye Gisby, and Jennifer Perkins, who's our orchestra teacher. And we have a huge support group through Education First.
Yep. Insurance is the same thing. If families decide not to cancel their trip, they have a 2-week risk-free enrollment period, and then they can cancel for numerous reasons that are listed, or they can pay a little bit more and cancel for any reason at all, up to 24 hours before the trip. And then background checks are still a thing, same thing, peace of mind. If anything happens in London or near London, we can back out of the trip or change locations as well.
Yeah.
And this is about insurance.
And the global travel protection, like the plus, it's pretty much also the same as you would get.
Yeah.
It's just a little
More.
It's just a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
But for payments, basically, it's kind of the same thing. We decided to make the trip in a couple years, so that way, if students who are currently in grades 7 through 10, because this will affect them when they get to 9 through 12, they can start saving up now and can start making the payments, and it's just a little bit easier on the wallet.
So that's about it.
Yeah.
Any questions? I'm sure we have questions.
Yes.
All right, questions? Start, Mr. Turner?
Oh, Mr. Finn.
Please, I insist.
So the dates of the trip itself, we haven't seen the calendar, obviously, for that school year. I'm assuming,
Yes, I looked at where the Patriots' Day was for 2026.
Okay. assuming
Before.
that's aligned. I figured so. And then you mentioned the sign up and paying over a longer period of time. Are you anticipating, like, announcing this out to the district, like, now? Okay.
Yes.
I know the Greece one was literally the
Yes.
day after
Yeah.
you
Yes.
were here, so, okay.
Ours will probably be in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
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 We have to obviously coordinate with a few more people to
Yes.
get an announcement out, especially to 7th graders and 8th graders, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so potentially if a child is in 7th or 8th grade and then chooses to not come to the high school, they would be, if they,
But-
depending on where they were.
Yes,
they'd-
but it's also, again, an incentive to
Oh, yeah,
stay
for
to
sure,
high school.
for sure. I think it's a lovely incentive.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Fennell?
Thank you, and great overview, I appreciate it. You had mentioned, and I didn't get this completely right, but that the trip is open to band, chorus, drama, performing arts, right?
Yeah.
I recognize that it's a wide age range, and there's a lot of kids who are involved in those programs. What happens if you don't get enough to sign up? Do you consider opening it up to everybody else? Again, probably it won't, but.
Yeah, no, yeah.
See
it's-
why not?
Yeah, I definitely don't see why not. I was just thinking that, especially for us, like, being involved with the arts, it would be nice to kind of do something to, like, unify us. But if, like, there were people or if there were kids who have taken a music class, weren't able to fit into their schedule, but still really want to go, like, I'm not going to say, no, you can't,
Okay.
Well, and by opening, sorry,
Please,
by
Mr.
opening it
Turner.
up also to the fine arts, that does, between fine arts and performing arts, you're getting a fairly good chunk of the entire school. One thing that I've mentioned before to the other groups that have come is, these are fantastic opportunities. I really appreciate them, and I appreciate all the work that goes into them. Ideally, in the conversations you have with Mr. Gendron about the longer term of these types of programs, having things that are a little bit more affordable as other options.
Yeah.
Because these trips are pretty consistently in this sort of price range. Something perhaps
Yeah.
somewhere in North America could involve, whether it's theater or foreign languages or history.
I have a contact with somebody whose boss's husband, I know it sounds like 30 degrees of separation, but like their boss's husband is the vice president of Broadway in Boston, so my hope for next year would also to be to do like a trip to Boston and also do like a backstage tour and hopefully meet like with the cast and crew of one of the Broadway in Boston shows as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Smaha?
Yeah, just to sort of follow up on that too. I mean, I don't know if there's a way. I mean, you see on the slides where there's the Global Citizen Scholarship with EF.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wonder if there are ways to sort of like more actively promote that as like an option so that families are more aware of that, or if there's something else, you know, and I don't know that we can do sort of like locally to like just try to encourage this opportunity for students who a family looks at that price and they're just like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
When we, I'll speak for the high school at least, when I did the Greece trip, student presentation in here, we really emphasized that. Like, that was the first question we had for, like, students had for us was A, what's the price, and B, how are we gonna pay for that, you know? And that was the biggest thing that Kira and I pushed, and I think we're gonna push the same thing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, when we talked to parents, we said the same thing. Like, the deadline was November 13th for this year, so make sure you apply and get on that. So we have a lot of students that are working on their scholarship applications right now.
Yes, and also utilizing the booster programs that we do have who help raise funds for purposes like this. So that way, we did the Great East Festival and we paid, CATS organization paid 2 scholarships where the kids were able to go like for no cost. We've had kids for the New York City trip last year, and then back in 2020 also were able to utilize the CATS booster group. I haven't brought it up with the band or orchestra booster groups yet because I want to get it approved, or hopefully get it approved. So that would be my next step to see.
But CATS is definitely willing to, we've talked to CATS.
Yes.
But even beyond this one, maybe involving the PAC as providing some form of an ongoing sort of grant scholarship program for travel.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Where it's an amount that could be some of the smaller trips and some of the bigger trips could come from that, and do something a little bit more consistent so people can know that it's available.
Yeah.
Because this is a long ways out and somebody looks at the price and just says no.
Yeah.
Right. And then same thing with the fundraising page, they'll get a link when they enroll that they can share with their Facebook feeds and
Instagram.
yeah, and raise money that way too.
How many people are you anticipating having
I have
space
no
for?
idea. Sorry, I know.
If we do 2 buses, that would be like 98 kids or something, 84 kids or something. So we're hoping for 2 buses, I think would be ideal.
Yeah.
But we don't have a real
number
yet.
We don't have a real number. If a kid is excited and enthusiastic and wants to go, and we have enough adult chaperones, then we want to make it happen. We don't really have a set.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to kind of just suggest is that we need, I think, a more thought through and just like planned up sign up process and time between. One of the things, so you're saying that you want to announce it and get people like signed up, now, like we're not waiting till next school year to get this going. But I think that one thing that families, for example, might need is some time between hearing about this trip and when the sign up period is, to figure out, can they make that work financially? Like if you just immediately hear it's just like, ooh, there's this trip to London and it's going, even with the 2 years to spread out the payments, some families might still look at that final number and just be like, oh, there's no way we can do that. But if they had a little bit more time to investigate some of the options, to think about like, well, you know what, you have a couple of birthdays or a couple of Christmases in between, and we could maybe make things work.
I'm not opposed.
And I don't mean it to be specific to like this. It's always like you're sort of the ones in front of us right now, so it sounds as though I'm like more or less asking you specifically to answer these questions. But this is more about something that I think that especially as we're doing more and more of this, that I think as a district we need to think through some travel policies about how we offer these opportunities and making sure that they're consistent and fair. I mean, like something that we don't really talk about is, well, if you've already gone on a trip, Do you get to go on a trip the following year, even if it's limited? You know, are there some people who get to travel 2 years in a row when other people just weren't able to sign up, even if they meant to, but they just weren't able to make that happen? And I don't know if there's it can be a complicated issue for.
That sounds like a good school committee.
Which is why I'm mentioning this as a broader, like, again, I'm not asking for you to answer those questions. This is something that just like it seems appropriate while we're discussing this, to just bring this up as I think something as a district and an administration, and of course with with the high school administration and the school committee, that we need to think a little bit through how we want to do these types of things. You know, the Greece trip was essentially full within an hour and a half of the link being available.
Yeah.
And so, there was an in-person meeting at 6 o'clock, and if you couldn't make it, you were able to sort of basically say, oh, send me the information. But if you got home that night at like 7:30 and checked the email, just like, oh, let me go look at this now. Like, sorry, you're on the wait list already. I mean, and not every trip is going to be necessarily as popular or fill up as quickly. But again, it's something to sort of think through, because it's really, in a lot of cases, it would be much more fair, even though people don't love this either, but to have a lottery. It's like, if you're interested, you have these 5 days to kind of put your name in, and then if it's going to be limited and some people have to go on a wait list, then it would be, in a lot of cases, much more fair to just kind of draw people from a lottery. And so something just for us to think about more broadly of how we make all of our travel more fair and accessible.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree with you. Like, for Germany, if you didn't sign up while the meeting was going on, you didn't get in. So I think that is something to consider. But I also just wanted to say, I think it sounds like a really great trip.
Wish I was still here, I'd go.
I'll chaperone.
I was going to say, and like study abroad at the same time.
Thinking coming back for 2 post-grad years to
Right?
take advantage of it.
In terms of like marketing the trip, if we, it would be great if the district could send out communication about it, like, especially because it involves 7th and 8th grade. Like, I can only do so much with the high school. That would be
But also,
ideal.
we have me,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But
I just
to
teach
make
at the
sure
middle
all
school.
the parents know.
Yeah.
Kids don't tell their parents everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that outside of the context of any particular travel trip, I think that just travel as something we do and are doing more and more consistently now is something that would be a good topic for a school committee meeting and discussion, to think about how we want to do that going forward.
No, it's a great point.
Further questions or comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would be looking for a motion to approve the trip to London in April 2026. Motion by Mr. Turner, second by Mr. Fennelly. All in favor? And that is unanimous.
Cool. Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Excuse me.
Probably won't be back at the next one.
How many school committee meetings in a row? Well,
I mean, as fun as it is. You guys have other things to talk about. Thank you. Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
okay, and that brings us to the superintendent's report, item 5, Dr. Brand.
Thank you very much. There are a few items tonight under the report. We will go in order, but just before we do the travel is, I think, a great recommendation, just to go back to that. In my role, it's the gatekeeper between these trips getting before you for consideration and your ultimate approval. The momentum is clear, the interest is high, but I think that the things, your comments and suggestions have not fallen on deaf ears. And Zelly and I have been talking about this with Mr. Gendron. I do think this is leaning towards possible policy consideration because there's a lot of factors here, as was outlined. So I think this might be something as well, whether it's starting in the retreat, perhaps in the summer, or thinking ahead to next year, that we may want to think about. Sorry.
Oh,
Can I go?
Dr. Bryson.
I just wanted to comment on
Yes.
that. I think that, I wonder if it shouldn't go to policy first, so we could at least start brainstorming what other schools have, if there are even
Right.
policies about travel. I'm sure there are somewhere. But I agree. I feel like I think I got this and I was like, oh, gosh, another one. And I think I'm a little concerned, as David pointed out, with sort of the consistency, not concerned even, just sort of, would it be possible for a kid to get through the high school and actually not have an opportunity? That's concerning, if they wanted it, right? If they don't want to go abroad, they don't want to go abroad. But I want to make sure that we're thinking through, and it's not, this is open to this grade, this is open to this grade, this is open to band, this is open to string, so you could have kids who don't fall into any of those categories who wind out, but missing out over and over again, and I just wanna make sure we don't let that happen. So I think a lottery sounds interesting, a little scary to me, but interesting.
Okay, well, sorry, back to the report, starting with the recognition of, speaking of school committee and involvement and voice and student engagement, we want to take the opportunity to extend our thanks to Maddie, who has this year, as you know, served as our representative from our student body. It's been a long time in Massachusetts in which some school committees have welcomed and included student representatives on their committees. This is a newer development for Wilmington, and I think such a great one when the decision was made and the recommendation a few years ago. The idea of bringing news, updates, issues of concern, and most importantly, their own voice to the table in the discussion grounds us in the work that we do, the decision-making ultimately that our committee has to make. And so I just, on behalf of myself and my office, want to thank you for your time, a lot of time, over the course of the year, on top of what I know is already a very busy schedule. I think you've done a wonderful job representing your peers, so thank you for everything you brought.
Yeah, it feels hard for me to believe that this is so new because I'm so used to it now, and it feels like it would be such an absence to not have you, the student at the table. And it's been wonderful, just like having you sit with us and considering the issues we're considering, and both representing us back to the high school, and then also, of course, on your reports, bringing the happenings of the high school to us. And I'm very pleased that you've been with us the whole year. People don't really realize how much time it is, and perhaps you didn't quite realize even at the start how much time it might be. But on top of all of the numerous commitments that we know you have, I mean, it's not just anyone who signs up for this role in the first place. You're only signing up for this if you're already the kind of person who's doing a ton of other things. And so I also have tremendous respect for the time that you've given us, and for having your perspective on the committee has made us a stronger committee.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Would anyone on the committee like to offer any other comments?
100%. Every time you have something to say, it's always very important and always tremendously on point. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's really great to be able to be here because there's a lot of stuff that you discuss and talk about that I just don't really hear about as the student. So I think it's great to just sit here and be a part of it. So thank you. I appreciate it, really.
All right, so we have something a little bit more tangible also. So I wanted to give you, first of all, a card, which has a gift card inside, as well as a thank you card from all of us, as well as a formal certificate of recognition and appreciation, which reads, "This certificate is proudly presented to Madison Benoit of Wilmington High School in recognition of achievements in being an outstanding Wilmington High School student representative to the Wilmington School Committee and community at large." And
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. And can we have another round of applause? Maybe even a photo.
We should get a photo.
Yeah, let's take a.
How should we do this?
I think I got it. You want me
Tell
to
you
do it
what,
right here?
let's, as we've kind of done recent, no, actually, but I would love to get a photo with Maddie with the whole committee.
With the whole
their
committee.
certificate.
Okay,
Why don't we just Stephen,
Motion to recess for 2 minutes?
second? All right, all in favor?
Sure.
All right, we are in recess for 2 minutes. Take a picture.
I think the hall is better, actually.
Yeah, in the hallway? No, please, good.
graduation.
All right, so we are back in session and moving to item 5B in the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. The second item this evening is the announcement of the Merrimack Valley Superintendents Association Scholars Recognition Program. For the past 15 years, the MVSA, again, Merrimack Valley Superintendents Association, for which we are a member of, has recognized 2 students from each of their member schools nominated by the superintendent and obviously with consultation from the high school administration and staff. This award is for those who have demonstrated excellence in their accomplishments both in the classroom and in their community. And in the packet, I think it's in the packet or it went out separately, I'm sorry, as an announcement, are the 2 this year's recipients from Wilmington. The first is Madison Benoit.
And where you find the time.
And the second is Monty Benaviscus. Help me with that. I apologize, Monty. But Mr. Gendron, Miss Elliott, and myself had the pleasure to join Monty and Maddie along with their families for the celebration last week. So a nice event, and congratulations.
Thank you.
The third item under this report, just very briefly, summer reading program. This is one of those things that more recently we've just brought to the attention of the committee and really the community, those that are watching our meetings and follow the work of the meetings as we head towards the summer very quickly, thinking ahead to the summer reading program. And you'll see very briefly what Ms. Elliott put together there. I'm not sure if you want to expand on anything, but I think it's...
Just at the elementary level, we're continuing with the process we've done. We've had a great collaboration with the public libraries, so we'll continue that. That information, they come to the schools and do a presentation in June, so we'll have all of that information up on the website and shared out. In grades 6 to 12, we're following the same format with some slight adjustments really based on student feedback and alignment with courses that will run next year as well. And that should be posted to our website following the long holiday weekend coming up. So you should see that next week at some point in time. So just stay tuned and check the website, and that information will be posted soon.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. And the fourth item, a little bit more extensive, but it was felt that this would be the most appropriate section of the agenda to include this item on, and that's an update on the strategic plan. There are a few items in the packet you'll have note that accompany this, and I'll just sort of set the context and then ask Sally to join here. As you'll recall, the committee approved. We all right? Oh, okay. The committee earlier this school year approved 5-year strategic plan after an awful lot of work, time, and energy and input by many community members last year. The 5-year plan was approved in the fall of this school year, and tonight it's our pleasure to provide you and our community, with an update on the progress that we've made as we quickly approach the end of the school year. Just to accompany this for context, there's a slide, in the packet there's this slide deck that we'll go through in just a moment. There's also a document that provides you with a status update and hyperlinks, and I'll give a shout out to Miss Elliott, whose creativity in sort of managing and creating these documents, which I think are really great to follow, and your feedback has been terrific. So thank you to her for coming up with sort of these conceptual designs to hopefully not overwhelm, but make it easier for folks trying to follow along where the status is of this particular item and where we're at right now. I think in short, and I hope you'll see that we with obviously the contributions and leadership of many, have made good progress overall, we think, on the many initiatives that were identified or strategic objectives. Some we still have some room to go and grow, but overall, I think in the context of the work and the other things that have been taking place this year, we feel pretty good about the work that we've tackled, and we want to share that with you tonight.
Thank you. I'll walk you through the slides briefly, but this first slide talks about the strategic plan objectives that the big overarching themes, the 5 themes that we are focusing on. And then there's a lot of information on this slide, so it's really more just to give a quick visual of what Dr. Brand was talking about. We under those 5 objectives, there are a series of action steps related to each one in order to accomplish our ultimate goal. We put them in chronological order to help us stay on track with what we needed to focus on in each year, or each, fall, winter, spring of each of those 5 years as we move through the strategic plan. This first slide captures all of the action steps that we had projected to complete during this 23-24 school year. So you can see when you look at it from this lens, there's a lot of pieces here that we were focusing on in this first year. So highlighted next to it, you can see the fall 23, and some of those items were complete. When you see, for example, in 5.1, it was projected in fall of 23, and we left the blank status there. That's an item that we hadn't started. I'm going to go through each of those that we didn't get to and talk a little bit about that. But just to give you an idea, and the green in progress status shows that we made significant progress in that area, but we didn't complete it as intended on the timeline we intended. So overall, you'll see that we completed 19 out of the 27 as projected. We had 4 action steps that are in progress but not quite complete yet. And we had 4 that were not started because of other competing agenda items and things we needed to focus on. So we have been working to map out the plan of how we're going to address those things that are either in progress and we need to complete, as well as those things that weren't started. So the next few slides will walk you through each of the different objectives. So this is objective 1, all students reach their fullest potential. You can see on the right-hand side the bullets of all of the items completed. And in this case, we had 1 action step that's in progress but not completed. And that is socialize policy updates to all stakeholders and update website, handbooks, documents, et cetera. So we are working through some of the different pieces where we might have accomplished some, committee's work's objectives, but we didn't get to that full publication and updating all of those things. So those will shift to the fall. In objective 2, so caring and safe for all, here we had a bit of a split in how we accomplished some of the things we were focusing on. So we completed on schedule a couple of action items here. We are well underway and in progress with the developing a district-wide survey implementation plan and creating a district survey calendar and FAQ document. We've done all the gathering of all the different surveys that are out there that we are using, across the district from multiple different lenses and roles, and combining those into a document so that we can look at that impact of how much are we communicating out to families or asking them to complete surveys, and try to streamline and align those things. So we're well on our way with that. We hope to have a district survey calendar available to families in the fall, as well as the FAQ document. And the thing we had not started yet was developing tools that support school-based and district safety threat assessment teams, updating safety protocols and emergency response guide. However, I have heard from the district safety team that that is on their next agenda, so actually that is likely to be well underway, or at least in progress, at the next meeting. And again, some of these things have been, there's been progress made since this slide deck was presented as well. The third is equitable and inclusive schools, and we feel that we were able to accomplish all of the objectives that were the action steps that were identified for this school year. We are continuing to develop our relationship with the Mass Partnership for Diversity in Education. Our HR director, Andrea Stern-Armstrong, has been active with that group and attending their meetings, and they've provided professional development and a job fair. So she's been quite involved with that. She was a bit disappointed that the job fair that she participated in was in the South Shore, so it didn't really draw we didn't find a huge benefit from that, but hoping that, I think there was a common feel from others from the North Shore who were involved in it, thinking maybe they'll be able to move something north. So we have been, walking through most of these pieces. We've spent some time really looking at the data around diversity, equity, inclusion, spending time training staff and working with the platform we use around that. We've done a tremendous amount of work related to, in the action steps related to communication with families in their home language, translations, things like that. So we've accomplished quite a bit there. And objective 4 is enhanced and updated school facilities. So I know this committee is well aware of the work that's been happening with our MSBA project. But first, one of the goals was to establish a technology committee with a broad-based representation. So that committee has been working all year long under the direction of Ken Lord, and they had projected to have the 5-year tech plan ready for your approval. It will be ready over the summer, so they'll bring it to you probably at one of the first school committee meetings. It's just, he's gathering last-minute feedback from folks on it, but it is pretty much complete. So that should be coming to you.
It may actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
June?
it may actually come at the end of June, he's indicated. So we
Great.
may be able to add that before
Great.
summer recess. Excuse me.
So he's done a great deal of outreach to everyone, gathering great data around informing that plan. So, as you are well aware, the educational program narrative was quite a large undertaking this year, so we were able to complete that as scheduled as well. And we are one community is our 5th objective. So the action steps for this year were to evaluate our current orientation and transition opportunities. So we have done that, and we are, it's on our agenda in June we've done a side-by-side looking at sister schools across town, looking at transitions between different schools and grade spans, and we are identifying, if you will, where there might be gaps for transition experiences for our students as well as for families, and looking at what's working well, and can we, if it's not happening on both sides of town or in different grade spans, can we replicate that? So that's work that we have scheduled for June, but we anticipate having that work completed, so we're well on our way there. The next 3 bullets here are all related to the same action step. Basically, it's developing a communication committee, and so that goal did not happen this year. So that is one that we plan to begin that work in August at our leadership retreat with our district leaders, and then launch that committee in the fall. So we anticipate that being pushed 1 year out. So we'll launch the committee in the fall. We'll evaluate our existing methods of communication. We'll develop a framework. We'll and guidelines for communicating with families, and we hope to have sort of an aggressive timeline with that, so that we have everything district-wide communication guidelines pushed out next spring. So we hope to be really aggressive and get caught up on that, because that's, I think, the one whole initiative that we weren't really able to tackle this year, where in each of the other objectives there were like action steps that we didn't quite complete. But so that's definitely one that's been prioritized to launch for during the summer and into next year. I will happy to take questions if people have additional questions.
Mr. Golden.
So my question refers back to objective 1, action steps. I'm just wondering if there were any kind of 10,000-foot kind of initial takeaways from the attendance working group, if you have anything on that, or if it was just, it's still in progress as to like promulgating the final protocols.
Sure. So I know that so I wasn't a part of that particular group, but I spoke with the person that's been facilitating that, and they've kind of spent a lot of time going back and forth with different aspects of that work around, excused absences and unexcused, and doing research with other communities as well. And I know that was work that this committee did as far as adjusting the policies last year. So they are feeling like they, you know, I guess I would say that they, you know, I had said in my initial thing here that that was pretty complete, but after speaking with her today, she said, we need more time. So that one I would say is probably, if I had to recategorize it, it might be more in progress. But they want more time, and then they want to come back and hopefully talk with this committee and a subcommittee about making sure that the work that they're doing with this is really in alignment with the policy, and if there needs to be any changes on either end, to have that conversation. So I don't know that I anticipate that they'll be back in front of us in the fall talking more about that, because I know I think their initial plan of what the focus was has taken them down some different rabbit holes as they've been exploring.
Cool. Thank you.
Dr. Bryson?
I also had a question about attendance. Do we know how many people were on that committee? It's a representative of K-12. Is it a large committee?
It's not huge. I know there's principals. It's led by Christine Murray. Have you been a part of some of it?
Yeah, there are principal representatives. So for all three levels, if you will, are included, have been in that group. Yeah.
Great. And then I would just echo that I think having them go to the policy subcommittee, or coming here and doing it, whatever, but I think talking through policy first would be really important, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Absolutely. And then maybe bringing it to the full school committee.
I have to say that I'm surprised that we got as far as we did.
Yes.
In a lot of this. I was worried that with how the how Objective 4, where their school facilities, has taken over so much of the time and attention this year, that I'm pleasantly surprised at how much we were still able to accomplish on the strategic plan. Looking through, because I haven't looked at it closely for quite a while. Looking through it again, I'm reminded that some of the stuff, it's hard to see that it's so far out sometimes. It's like, this is not till 26, 27, 28. I just have to keep reminding myself that just like you can't do everything all at once. And if you try to, you will do none of it well. And if you want this stuff to actually have any lasting impact and to matter, it's just, you have to do things, sequentially, and give it the time that it needs. And that's the point of mapping this out and not just running around scattershot. So I think we're in a good place. Mr. Turner.
One quick one. If memory serves, when we talked about this when it was approved, part of the concept was coming back each year, perhaps in the fall, to revisit the plan for the subsequent years and potentially so that's still the vision, that you'll look at where you got and look at how things interlock, and also the commitments related to the Wildwood program, to potentially reset and realign.
Yes, and thank you for reminding folks of that. That we have, the summer is an important time for our leadership team, and sort of thinking ahead, summarizing and reviewing where we've been this past year, not just relevant to the strategic plan, but also what we know is lying ahead. So we have already, the planning has begun for our own retreats and our own summer planning. Coming out of that, I certainly envision will be the possibility of something that there be a belief that should be moved up in the timeline, or something else that may have emerged, since this plan was provided for you, that maybe now we would like to propose its inclusion. So, I don't think I don't think you are going to see substantial changes, but there could be some tweaks or adjustments here or there that we will certainly want to share with you, and ultimately, again, whether it's seeking your approval or just a consensus of the committee, but at the beginning of the school year, I think will be important.
I could just add to that there were a couple things that, because of pressing needs, we moved up, and we didn't change the date on the plan, but we've already completed them. There's a few of those, and then we already have a document developed with, these were the action steps for 23-24. We have a new one developed for our own internal use that is 24-25, that includes those things that are still in progress, are not done, and prioritized. So, we're as Dr. Brand said, we are we already know that part of all of the work we're doing next year is we need multiple committees running different things. And so that's our, goal this summer, is to look for, okay, who would like to take the lead on this committee, this committee, this committee, so that we're well established to start the school year and not finding ourselves in a position like we were this year with, like, yikes, we just didn't get that communications committee up and running. So really thinking through in the summer to make sure that it's mapped out for the year. So that's our hope.
Thank you.
Dr. Bison?
I'm looking at equitable and inclusive schools, and I'm looking at persons responsible. And we just had an EDI meeting earlier, which we're not doing subcommittee updates now, but I'm looking at people respond, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that should be revisited a little bit. I'm thinking about the work that Andrea's done on 3.3 and how interesting and valuable some of that insight might be to 3.1. Like, I'm like, oh, wait, maybe there's more opportunity here to sort of spread out the expertise. I mean, that I don't think so I'm not suggesting, I don't know exactly where it goes, but I'm looking at 3.3, and so that would be Andrea, and then high school administration, high school counseling, but that's really about recruiting across all grade levels. So I'm just not sure that the people in those spots are exactly who should be there, and if we're spreading out expertise in the way that we need to in this particular area that we know is such a need for us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So no point, I don't really have a major suggestion, but I just think that should be looked at.
All right, Mr. Smaha?
Yeah, it's sort of related to this, and it's the thinking about, in terms of the responsibility, the action steps, right? They may have a slightly different person responsible than the person for the whole objective. That's correct.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is kind of going back to what Mr. Turner was talking about, but was alluding to. I mean, in general, was 27 steps? Does this seem like too many?
Good question.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, I think as we go through that 5-year, you'll see that there are fewer steps as we get there. I think it was that you spoke of, Mr. Ragsdale, about the pressure initially but we have so much to do, so we want to get them done, but we also want to make sure we're doing them well. So clearly, 23 would have been better for us than 27, but we are not writing the entire narrative of what education is in Wilmington. That's 180 pages next year, hopefully. So that might have allowed us to do 4 more. So, I mean, I think that when you look at what the specific steps are and things are, there, certain departments get hit heavy at certain years in those action steps, and Christine Murray has been a very busy woman because of the way they fell in this first year for many of the things that she's been helping to facilitate. So there might be some imbalance in who's owning what, in those numbers, but I think overall, if we stay focused and organized and really try to target what we're working on, I think it's pretty manageable.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 6, public comment. Mr. Fennelly.
Yeah, thank you. No public comment received in advance, no members of the public signed up in advance, but as always, we'll open the meeting to public comments.
You're red.
All right.
He's like, no, thank you.
Hey.
Very good, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, we will move to item 7, new business, and begin with discussion of the superintendent evaluation. Dr. Braylon.
Sure. Thank you. A couple of items in the packet that accompanies this item. Start first with the cover memo, just for context, as I think members are well aware. This is the time period that we've now begun in which you are asked, required, to conduct my evaluation as your superintendent of schools. Just as a reminder, as I noted in the cover memo, this is year 2 of the 2-year evaluation cycle. The 2-year evaluation cycle is something that the Department of Education provides and allows for school committees to entertain in terms of the evaluation of their superintendent. That decision to place myself on that 2-year cycle was made at in the 2021-22 school year. So because of that decision, this year would be the summative assessment of performance. According to the Department of Education, and there's a lot of documentation of which I think also was included in the packet for your reference, the summative assessment of the superintendent should include consideration of the progress report on goals, in addition to any other relevant evidence, in order to inform an assessment rating of performance on each of the standards. So that will take me to the other document that is included in the packet, and I know it's extensive. It's a lot of information, and it's not meant to overwhelm, but building upon I think last year was the first year, if I recall, I think it was the first year, 2 years ago, thank you, was an effort to try and pull together documents that allowed you as a committee member to more directly see the linkage between the standard and evidence. And it's understood that a lot of the things that are in here you may have already seen flowing through the packet materials. But it's, there's a lot of material that comes before you, of course, every single year. So the hope is to pull that back up to the surface and to try and be thoughtful around how that corresponds to those various standards. It's also true that though there are many other documents or reference points of evidence, if you will, that is work that is happening in different venues, in different parts of the activity of the district. So there's been an effort again to kind of align these and to provide a brief description of the evidence and how this seems to fit together. So those are the first number of pages of that PDF document for the various standards. And then towards the end of that document, you will see a more specific focus on the goals, my performance goals. And that starts on page 9, I believe it is. And so just as a reminder, there's the original memos that are linked at the top that identify the performance goals that we previously talked about and that you were asked to approve. You also recall that it was through the school year that there was the discussion around a modification of those goals. That included both through your appreciative recommendation, the addition of the MSBA as an actual goal, which was folded in here, and some adjustments to some of the original goals that with your recommendations and support will also be moved until next school year. So somewhat similar to the above for the standards, and again, an effort was made to provide direct links to evidence that tied into the various goals, and then on the far right-hand side of the column, a description or explanation of that evidence for all of the various goals. So there's not a slide deck or presentation here. We thought there's plenty of to reference here, but happy to take any questions or comments you have on the information here. And of course, going back to the original memo and the timeline, as has been discussed previously with the chair and vice chair. So tonight, May 22nd, is this update, a progress report, if you will, on the performance goals and the overall work related to the standards. That then moves into your need as a school committee to conduct individual evaluations, and I think we have a tentative date at the end of this month for those. There is, as you know, a subcommittee that has the charge of coming together to take a look at this for the evaluation subcommittee, the superintendent. That right now is planned for the week of June the 3rd with a report out of that subcommittee the June 12th meeting. So I'm happy again to take any questions you might have on anything that's included in the document.
Mr. Smaha.
Thank you for this. As I sort of look through this, like it is a lot, right? But I think as someone who's also been on the subcommittee for the evaluation, I also think that just for other members, like this is like an incredibly useful document where we can find all this stuff. So thank you for putting this together. I think part of it speaks to your competence as a superintendent of putting this together so that when we're looking at something, we know where to find the evidence. So if I'm evaluating you for the district improvement goal, like I've got all of this stuff in one place, and I'm not like doing a search in my drive, which I've done in years past, and that can get really complicated. I just want to say thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for that, and it certainly is necessary to call it that I had some assistance with this, and that would be Ms. Ingersoll and Ms. Elliott, who also helped put this together. So the competence that you mentioned is shared, but thank you. So.
Mr. Fennelly.
Echoing Mr. Samaha, I appreciate this. I know we started, I think side conversation, this is the third year that I think we've done this. It makes the process much easier to have that information sort of at hand. So to you and your team for putting it together. I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but in looking at the superintendent evaluation folder, there's a lot of stuff in there, but this evidence form is not, it's in our packet, but it's not in the folder itself. So if we could just make sure that gets in there so it's all in one place. Of course. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Bryson.
So that's my question too. So I don't know, so one, has the evaluation form been updated?
Yes.
Okay, do we have that?
No.
Okay.
So the.
I'm thinking mostly for Nick about like what that's gonna look like.
The form has been updated, and it's going to be, so after we reorganize the subcommittees tonight, it's going to be sent to the superintendent evaluation subcommittee just for sort of review and sign off before it goes out to the rest of the committee.
And so in those folders, there's a subcommittee folder, which not everyone would have access to, because that would just be for the subcommittee, is that correct? Because I feel like I'm looking at two here. There's a subcommittee folder.
Yeah, there's the subcommittee.
Then there's also a superintendent evaluation folder. You're saying this should go into that folder, because that's shared for everybody.
Right, so for example, I'm not on the superintendent evaluation subcommittee, and I don't have that folder.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah, you guys had your own sort of work space.
Our own working area, which I think.
Right, because that's where we collected all of the individual evaluations.
Right.
And then reviewed them to put them together
Exactly.
for the one evaluation.
I mean, I would prefer to see it in the superintendent evaluation under its goals 2023, 2024.
Yep. Yeah.
Where I think now there's the blank sort of form that's in there right now that I understand is a placeholder because it's gonna be updated after this, so.
What's the date on that?
May 16th?
So that's the right one.
But I'll double check it.
Outstanding. All right, perfect.
Thank you.
So
Yes, Mr. Turner.
you mentioned that the subcommittee would meet once to review the form and then formally say, yes, please go.
I don't think that's going to require a meeting. It's just going to be emailed to them.
Okay.
And just for the committee to look at it and just be like, yep, this looks good, ready to go, send it to.
Goal would be to send it to all of us by.
Oh, and like very quickly, like
Okay.
we're talking about like immediate turnaround, because we have a tight timeline
Yes,
anyway.
that's-
We're looking for
Yeah,
feedback by May 31st. So,
Cool.
so we would be looking to get this to everyone, I would say tomorrow, and we just want to have a quick set of eyes on it from the subcommittee and then give the okay, and then it goes out.
Okay, thank you, that helps.
Nothing. I'm too steeped in the details. That's fine.
All right, and just one other thing, I'll reiterate, Mr. Golden, that I'd mentioned previously that I will also send you some examples of previous evaluations that you can kind of just like look over and kind of work from as just a sort of, here's a completed version of it, to just kind of like get a sense of both like length and detail and just how some other people have done it to help guide you in this process.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Turner.
The summative one, you might want to also send to Dr. McCaldy, because he wasn't here when we did the summative one 2 years ago either. So in terms of that particular version of it, because it's a slightly different form, right? Summative versus the.
Yes, it is.
So, okay.
Yeah,
So
it is
just
slightly different.
Just a thought on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Thank you for that. Yeah, and as Dr. Brand said, so that we'll be looking for, to get the individual committee evaluations in by next Friday, the 31st, and then the subcommittee will meet the following week, put it all together, and we will present the evaluation at the June 12th meeting. Superintendents are one of the few people who get to be evaluated in public during a public meeting.
On television, no less.
Broadcast, have your evaluation broadcast.
Perhaps that's a good night for popcorn. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to Item 7B, which is the first read of a whole bunch of policies. The Policy Subcommittee has been very busy.
Just two of us now, too. Very busy.
And so let's go through these in turn. So beginning with policy IGA. So comments, questions on policy IGA for curriculum development.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say if it's okay, as long as nobody has any questions, certainly, but, we made, this one sort of largely deviated from what the MASC policy is. The MASC policy was updated recently, so in looking at the document, that blue section, those 2 paragraphs under the first paragraph are currently what's in the MASC policy, and so our recommendation was to insert that language so that the policy mirrors what the MASC has. Then, aside from that, but on the same policy, we had a conversation as a subcommittee where currently we are, Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, reviewing and approving the high school's program of studies. And we had said, well, you know, if we're sort of looking at what the middle school is doing, does it make sense that we are also doing that for the middle school, and wanted to sort of bring that to the full committee for thoughts or opinions on. We didn't think we should unilaterally make the decision that we review the middle school's program of studies, so.
Right, if I can just add, as a school committee, you certainly have the obligation to approve the high school program, specifically because of the fact that that leads to graduation requirements and such. Middle school is not required under the Department of Education or Mass General Law. I know for a fact that some other communities would also add middle school to this review process, but at the same time, there's lots that don't. So it was really just here for your consideration. From a context, standpoint, they're 2 very, very different entities. Obviously, a lot more variations at the high school level for classes or programs. At the middle school level, I would suggest that most of it would center around the unified arts or electives programs, however you want to define that. 8th grade math versus 8th grade ELA, is not the same nuance certainly as at the high school English or math departments. But that said, it's certainly something here for you as a committee to consider. And if you were inclined to move in this direction, then we would do the same thing for, not for next school year, but for the following years.
Mr. Turner?
I think considering the amount of time and energy we've spent on things like advisory and WIN, which then fall into the unified arts and the rest, I think it makes complete sense to add it at this point. Certainly if in the future we chose to remove it, that'd be a different thing, but I think at this point it makes sense.
Yep.
Mr. Smaha?
I was just gonna say, same thing.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like we have any, Mr. Golden.
I was gonna move to approve. Can I do that?
Well, this is just a first read of the policy, so these are going to.
Love the enthusiasm, though.
I was like, oh, it's a second read.
So these are going to come back to us in the consent agenda at the next meeting when we'll vote to approve them.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so doesn't sound like there's any objections to the policy as it's been revised, so that looks good. And next is IGBH. For alternative programs.
Yeah, IGBH is not an MASC policy. This is a policy that the committee must have drafted at some point in the past, and through the conversation we had, we recommend removing this one. It seems like, and Christine, I know you were helpful with this, any alternative programs, quote unquote, that we would have are sort of currently already covered under the special education umbrella. So this seemed to be kind of an outlier and like it wasn't necessary, so.
Yeah, I think like alternative programs, I think the only ones I can really think of that seem to fall into this are like alternative high schools.
Right.
Vocational.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, things which don't really fall under to what we do. Like, we're doing obviously outplacements when needed. Mr. Turner.
So if this comes into the consent agenda, would it just be the whole thing struck out? Because right now it's not currently struck out, so.
We,
Or Would consent agenda
I guess it
simply
would be
say
deletion
remove?
of.
Deletion
Yeah.
of,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I wanted to know how
So
we.
thank
Yeah,
you.
we just have to phrase
Yeah.
that as,
Yeah.
rather than approval
Lots
of,
of red
but
lines.
deletion,
Deletion of.
deletion
Yeah,
of
okay.
policy,
Thank you.
IGBH. All right, so that is the recommendation of the subcommittee, and committee also seems to have no issue with that, so we'll put that in the next consent agenda for deletion. All right, next is policy IGD, curriculum adoption.
Yeah, a couple of minor sort of grammatical changes, but in the last paragraph, you'll note that we added middle school on the thought that we might add middle school to the previous policy, and so the first one was curriculum development, this is curriculum adoption, excuse me, and so, you know, if we're reviewing the program of studies, then it would stand to reason that we would be adopting it or approving it, so that was the only major change to this one.
Okay, any thoughts or comments on that addition? Okay. Moving to policy IHAE, physical education.
Self-explanatory, not an MASC policy, struck some of the language to,
Be more current.
well
But we
said.
kept it, we didn't suggest deletion.
No, we deleted some of the outdated language, but kept some of it. You're not connected right now, are you?
No, I am.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just reiterating.
Oh,
We
no.
were
Oh,
not-
I'm
I was
sorry.
saying
I mean,
I am connected. We were not recommending deleting it,
No.
even though it's not listed. So typically, if
That's
it's not an MASC, we do suggest
That's
removing
right.
it. But we didn't suggest removing it, but we wanted to bring it back and say, do we need this? We didn't check with anyone else. We just sort of updated the language. So if anyone has any,
That's a good
no, I am connected. I'm with you. Jeez.
point.
So I guess any thoughts? I mean, do you want us to talk to Stinson, Lauren? Like, I mean, do you want us to do anything else with this, or are you comfortable with it as is? It seems relatively harmless to me, but. David.
Sorry, just, Mr. Smaha. I was thinking about,
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
it's hard to think and run the meeting at the same time.
I mean, I guess my question is, what, like, I mean, I can read the policy, but I still don't understand its, like, purpose. Like,
It was kind of,
So-
it's kind of what we struggled with too.
like, I don't,
It-
it's not, like, it's not bad, but it's not like, is this useful?
Yeah, so,
Mr. Turner.
so if I go all the way back, the policy
Thanks,
is
Jay.
the what, and then the how is developed by the district leadership team. So the what is, we have a policy on physical education, just as basically a backstop that we want there to be physical education as part of the programs. And so I can understand the linkage if we think about policy and it's purely why we do it at all. Okay, but if we're this clear with this particular one, I believe we are with the other ones as well. As long as we're being consistent with how we do these things, great. And in some ways, the questions we had about the change to the middle school program, where they went to physical education every other day, the question is that aligned with this policy? So to that extent, it makes sense to have one. But I could certainly argue that it should be covered elsewise with just the general program of studies, so I'm okay with it either way.
Mr. Smaha.
I mean, do we think that maybe getting the input from some of the teachers, I would assume, in
I think we
P-
could bring
PE,
it-
that just get some more information on it, maybe?
Yeah, this is something that also could go with the, can't think of the, I'm on the subcommittee, I can't think of the.
Oh, is it the wellness
the-
ones?
Well, yeah, the Wellness Advisory Council, but that might be something else that's
Sure.
worth bringing to them.
Okay. So we'll pull that out, IHAE,
Yep.
and we'll bring it back to our subcommittee meeting. Okay.
All right, next is IHAI, occupational education.
Yeah, similar idea as the previous policy. The language was outdated. it was another sort of, is this necessary kind of thing, so.
Mr. Golden?
Recognizing my lack of experience with having looked over these policies to date, I would say that I think it's fair to have kind of a broad gut instinct that a lot of this, you know, it's from the 70s. I think a lot of it here is meant to kind of signal the appreciation of certain values rather than direct, explicit, or specific policy proposals for a school district. That being said, it is our set of policies. With this one, just speaking personally, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be that big of a deal to like make, I feel like, too much of a change. But at the same time, I think it is cool to be informed about the world of work. But I think they will be either way. So,
I don't know. I have a general inclination that policies that aren't really doing a lot of work should generally just be deleted.
yes.
That the policy manual already is hundreds of pages.
171.
And there's important things in there that really do guide how the district operates. And that having generally unnecessary policies or ones that are, I don't know, just like only exhort us to do something, I lean towards, I don't know that we need to make aspirational statements in the policy manual. I think that they should do like real work, and there should be like a real benefit to like, oh, now that I've read this policy, I know something more about how the district operates or is supposed to operate than I did before. So I think I would lean towards deleting things we really just don't need in there and try to just clean it out a little bit. Dr. Bryson?
That seems fine with me, so we can recommend deletion for the second read. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right,
All right.
so we will mark
Brings us to IHAM.
health education. All right.
This is in the MASC handbook. It was reviewed 2023. Small
Okay.
changes.
All right, and yep, those are all small. Any other additional comments? Okay, we will send that forward for second reading and approval. FA, facilities development goals.
Sorry, I'm pulling them up. So this was quite a change. So the red, which we made.
Yeah, red, I think we added
We added
from
from
MASC. Yeah, the policy was fairly different. They reviewed it somewhat recently.
Mr. Golden?
I'll just say that I do like writing in best practices, especially because these are best practices that inform what we do. You know, like codifying institutional memory about something like this, I think, matters. So I think you did a very good job to the policy team.
So I think this looks good to me with these revisions. Any further comments or objections? All right, so we'll move that to second read and approval. Then we have FAE, facilities development goals.
Where are my notes? This
Another
one,
facilities development.
yeah, this is not an MASC policy and seems to be fairly out of date, and so we recommend removing it outright.
Yep.
Or deletion of.
That seems duplicative as well. So any objection to deletion? All right, seeing none, we will remove policy FAE from the manual. That takes us to FB, facilities planning.
Same. So this
Same.
is also not an MASC. We suggested a removal.
I agree.
All right, any other comments or objections from the committee about removing policy FB? Okay, we will,
And Dr. Brand, are you comfortable? Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
all right, so we will move FB for deletion. And then we have FF, naming of school facilities.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So kind of two-part. One, you can see the sort of deletion and insertion. We updated this to match what the MASC has. It's significantly different than what our current FF policy has. It also goes back to conversations we've had in the lead up to town meeting around the sort of renaming of the Woburn Street School, and also seems to contradict the town's bylaws. It's not my meeting, but I'm guessing you have a.
So to that point, during the town meeting, the town's legal counsel gave guidance that we did have the authority. So it did contradict, yeah.
Missed town meeting.
So we read the town bylaws and we all thought, oh, these are in conflict with it, but we got guidance from the town council at that meeting that no, we do have the authority for buildings within our care and custody for naming. So we can, that little bit could be.
So not to put words in your mouth, but if I'm understanding, this change to the policy, as long as the committee is okay, is okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah,
See,
no,
you missed
Mr.
town meeting.
Rich stated that, that
Yeah.
that authority rested still with the school committee, and that the town, the vote at town meeting was more of a sense of the town meeting,
Okay.
sort of opinion. But that this, had been found, under legal precedent in court cases to rest with the school committee. So despite it apparently conflicting with the bylaw, I think the bylaw is where we have the problem now.
Yeah.
And not with the policy.
Great.
All right,
So
so,
we're good?
so are we good with policy FF? All right, we will put that in for approval. And lastly, FFA school memorials.
So it was as written, we just added school, I think it just said memorials, we
Yeah.
added school, and the review dates. There was nothing else, except the additional language that was recommended. We did not add that.
That's what it was,
Yeah.
okay.
We did not add that. We were comfortable with it as is, but I think it's worth probably at another, maybe during our retreat, to talk through the additional language and see if there's some more revisions we'd like to make as a group. I don't think we should decide right now, but I think if we want to go through some of that, the collected language, MJ had gotten this, and I think it's worth going through and looking, but I don't think we should try and squeeze it in right now.
Yeah, and that was, so the existing language really talks about the awards and scholarships and those sorts of things, but we've done some things around some of our buildings to date that'll line up more with the recommendations. So I do think it'd be good to re-review these, to your point, Dr. Bryson.
Mr. Swaha?
So is the suggestion to perhaps approve what this is now, and then this summer talk about it, and then go through and then it'll come back to the policy subcommittee?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, I think that sounds fine.
So can I just, to make sure that we have it, we sort of approved everything to move forward. IGBH, IHAI, FAE, and FB are gonna be removed. And then all of the others, with the exception of IHAE, is the physical education one. We're gonna go through either the wellness committee or something like that, so, okay.
Connect with Laura Stinson
Yeah.
and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the
Thank you.
effort on this,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
All right.
fun.
Yes, thank you.
Policy's
Thank you.
fun.
Good progress.
It's important.
You know you all want in.
The sales pitch for the next round.
Well, you know, there is a vacancy, so,
It's a good time.
all right. All right,
Really?
gotta start selling our subcommittees.
We have fun.
All right, so that brings us to item 8, old business, which is our reorganization. So we are going to elect officers for the next 12 months, as well as make our subcommittee assignments. And we reviewed the procedures at the last meeting, but just briefly to recap them, so we essentially open the floor to nominations for the 3 officers in succession, for chair and vice chair and secretary. And there's no need for a second for someone to place someone in nomination. Then, once nominations are made, there's a roll call vote, and you know, we elect someone, vote again if that's needed. And then immediately, so the chair is done first. Immediately after that, the new chair takes over presiding over the meeting, and we proceed through the same procedures to elect the vice chair and the secretary. After which, we will then move on to our subcommittees. So before opening the floor to nominations, I do want to state that I'm intending to step down as the chair. After 3 years in one of the leadership positions up here, with a senior next year, I'm ready to take at least a year out of one of these leadership positions. So I will not be a candidate. How do I say that? It's not.
Seeking
It's like, yeah, it's not.
What did Lyndon Johnson say? I won't accept, nor will I seek nomination from my party or something like that, yeah.
Point of information, though, couldn't you still just be elected if we just made you?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, we usually
decline the nomination,
Right, I'll
but-
do the general Sherman, just like, will not run if chosen, will not serve if elected.
We're just dropping the quotes.
That was I believe, the Sherman line.
Thank you for your efforts this year, David.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, Dr. Basin.
And I also want to say thank you to both you and Jesse. Having sat in that seat for quite a few years, I understand the incredible time commitment and all that happens behind the scenes. And so we are grateful that you stepped in and did it for us this year and changed a lot of great things. I think the consent agenda and a lot of other things have really been streamlined under your leadership, and we're grateful. So thank you very, very much for serving in that role.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to open the floor for nominations for chair, and I would like to make my own nomination to begin with and nominate Jesse Fennelly for chair of the committee.
Do we second the nomination?
No.
Nominations don't need.
Are you
no,
reading it?
This is,
No, we see if there's more nominations.
nominations don't need a second, but the floor is still open if anyone would like to place someone else's name in nomination. And are you willing to serve?
If elected, sure, yes.
If elected?
Willing.
All right, then we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Golden?
Oh, I'm first?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna go right.
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Turner?
Yes.
And Mr. Samaha?
Yes.
And Dr. Bryson?
Yes.
And Mr. Fennelly?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So we'll don't have the gavel to hand over.
Don't give him the gavel.
Didn't I give you the gavel?
Gavel stays in the name
Yeah,
tag
the gavel
box.
is around here. Well, you're in
Switch
charge
name
now,
tags
but
every
you want to swap seats or what?
Let's do officers so we don't have to play too many things
All right,
of
so we'll
musical
do the-
chairs. I'll start by saying thank you and echo what Dr. Bryson said. Having worked alongside David for the past year, I recognize the amount of time and energy and dedication that goes into it. And so thank you for all of your hard work. And hopefully you can now, with a senior, you can enjoy your year of regular membership in the committee. So thank you. With that, I would look for nominations for vice chair. Mr. Turner.
I would like to nominate Dr. Bryson for vice chair.
Dr. Bryson, would you accept?
Accept.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, roll call. Mr. Ragsdale.
Yes, Jennifer Bryson.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Samaha?
Yep.
Dr. Bryson?
Yep.
I am also a yes. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
David's like, I'm out of here.
I think we need to move right now.
David can't get out of this.
David's like, yeah.
Done, I'm out.
Do I have to?
No, I think we can sit still for
I
the
remember
night.
that last year. I was like, all right, see you later.
You actually wanted to walk out of the room.
Just like, right, can't I just head out the door? I
Can I go?
gotta stay for the rest of this?
All right, we still have things to do. With that, we would look for nominations for secretary. And reminder, we haven't had a new secretary for a number of years. That position
was
was
last
held by Ms. Burns for quite a while, so.
Point of order, a reference, personal, whatever she would say. How many years did she do that job? Was it like 6?
Well, Jay and I have been here for 5 years, and she was the secretary for that entire
whole
term,
time.
so.
And when I was there, too.
Gotta be.
She was probably there as my nana.
7, 8 years, if not more, so.
Yeah, I think that Peggy Kane was briefly secretary for a while before she left the committee, and then Ms. Burns took it over again. So there's one
Yeah.
brief interregnum in the middle there.
Okay. Dr. Bryson,
I'll nominate Stephen Turner.
I will accept.
thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, roll call. Mr. Ragsdale.
Yes?
Mr. Golden.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Mr. Samaha.
Yes.
Dr. Bryson.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Congratulations and
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, with that,
Wow, wow.
let's
Really
do
taking the
subcommittees.
mark.
is it that?
Nice
We have
of-
timestamps to adhere
You're
to.
really taking this on.
This is good.
Don't look at me.
No,
I'm
yeah.
not, I'm not gonna.
And popcorn.
Just popcorn. All right, so, subcommittee reorganization,
In Dr. Mercaldi's absence, is he nominated for all of them?
I believe David has his
Yeah.
preferences.
Yes, I do have an email from Dr. Mercaldi, which is fairly brief, so I'll just actually read it. And then we can all know what his thoughts and desires are.
Sure.
He said it was fine for me to read this. So he says, as far as finance, he's enjoyed serving on this last year and learning how things work, would like to serve again now that he understands the system and process better. Legislative representative, I'll just read it. Felt I can do more with this one. We met a few times with Senator Feingold, but not much came out of it. Would like to expand the subcommittee to have general outreach to our state delegation and also keep the school committee better informed on upcoming legislation. Sick bank, he said, I'm happy to stay on or give this one up, see where the committee members go. Others he is interested in superintendent evaluation. He said at a very important subcommittee. He has experience from the corporate world with performance management, so may be able to add some value here. And school committee handbook and protocol. Now that I have a year of experience, I feel I can take a critical look at this and find ways to improve.
Tired.
So those were, right, I think we've got the school committee handbook.
God.
All right, but that is what Mike communicated about subcommittees.
So Mike gets none of those because he's not here.
Tough luck, should have been here.
Could have called in at the very, all right. So first subcommittee is the policy subcommittee. Currently, Jen and myself, MJ was the third member, and Mr. Turner is the alternate.
I'd like to remain on this, because I think I'm aggressively helpful enough to continue to move this forward, and I'm worried that I just would like to remain on it.
Sure. I would say that I am willing to step away if there's significant interest, but we've made some progress, and I'm happy to sort of continue with the momentum that we have.
I would be interested in rejoining the policy subcommittee, which I was on for several years before last year.
Is there any other interest? Do you want to stay as the alternate?
I'd be happy to stay. Actually, either way, if somebody else wants to be involved in that, I'd be okay with that too.
Okay, so I think we essentially replace MJ with David and just keep Stephen as the alternate.
And you are staying?
And I'll stay.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I don't have many other subcommittees.
Okay.
So. Okay, sick bank subcommittee was MJ and Mike. Mike has indicated he could go either way, but we do need at least one additional member. So anyone interested in the sick bank subcommittee? We're all jumping at once.
You don't have to.
No,
You don't have to.
I will say, so, we had them at the legislature, that we could use. I misstated in the prior meeting. So I am actually interested in learning more how they work. They're common in government. So I'd be interested, willing.
Very good. Anybody else? We'll keep Mr. McCaldy on there and include Mr. Golden.
Sounds good.
Very good. Okay. Probably the most pressing at the moment, the Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee. Currently, Dr. Bryson, Mr. Ragsdale, and Mr. Samaha. Thoughts?
I would like to remain on it, but if other people would really like to get in on that, I understand.
Okay.
So I'm happy to do it. I've done it, I think, the whole time. So I'm happy to continue doing it, but again, I will let someone else do it if they would like to. I think the chair does need to be on it.
Okay.
Jesse.
Okay. Mr. Samaha.
I have been on it. I know that, I think Mike said that he would like to be on that.
Correct.
So, although I like being on that committee, I'm willing to, I'm willing to step down from that and give him space there.
Mr. Exon?
And I was going to also make the point that Dr. Bryson made, that traditionally the chair has been a member of that, and so I will step down to create room for you to join.
Okay. So I would say, I think the one thought I would have, happy to do it, but with all of your kindness and willingness to step away from it, I think it's important that some continuity remain, right? Because you three have done the evaluation for at least the last 2 years, I think, right? So,
Sorry, but, so David, if you would like to do it,
you still could, sir.
you could, and you could take my spot. I'm comfortable, so I can go, But
I'm,
yes, I agree with you. Someone who's done it before should be there.
yeah, I mean, I'm willing to stay, but I'm also willing to leave and have a group of.
There's a lot of willingness to stay or go.
Self-evaluation is fine.
You can take comfort, I'm not interested in this subject.
So right now, the superintendent
Well, you-
evaluation subcommittee is me,
And Michael.
and Mike is interested.
I would say that if we're looking for continuity, Dr. Bryson has done it longer than I have. Although I'm not trying to, you said you wanted to stay there. I mean,
Should've talked
she, you know,
Glenn, who do you really want?
she and Jay.
Okay.
Knew my thought.
Okay. All right, so if I'm here, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm hearing it correctly, it sounds like it's gonna be me, Dr. Bryson, and Mike, if you're willing to. Okay. We're comfortable with that? Okay, very good. WEF, Mr. Turner is currently our WEF representative.
I'm happy to continue, but it is also, in terms of subcommittees, it's not a super time commitment. It is once a month a meeting. It is a great group. If somebody else wanted to experience and get to know that group, I think it's a really cool opportunity. I've done it for 1 year literally, so I'm happy to do it again, but if somebody else wanted to get to know their work, and I would encourage it as an interesting part of what we do. So.
Yeah, I was the WEF representative for a year, and then they changed their meeting time, and it conflicted with my work schedule, so I couldn't do it anymore, but they are a great group, so. Is there any other interest?
I am, but.
Sold. All right. Wellness Advisory Committee, currently Mr. Ragsdale and Ms. Burns. So we need at least one new member. Mr. Ragsdale, any thoughts?
We both had difficulty making meetings this year, both me and MJ, because they occur on, I think, once a quarter, Tuesday afternoons at 3:30, and we both had work commitments that made it difficult to attend those meetings. I think I only made one of them this year, so I would be happy to stay on and not attend them, I guess. But I suppose that defeats kind of the purpose of having a school committee representative there.
Can I make this is going to sound really odd, but I could probably do Tuesday afternoon. WEF is in evenings on Tuesdays. If you wanted to do WEF, I could do wellness, and I mean, again, I wouldn't want to do both.
Trading subcommittees now?
That's literally what I'm suggesting here, and a draft pick to be named later.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm concerned about is that we're shifting Wildwood Building Committee meetings to Tuesdays.
Okay.
And so I'm worried that there might be
a very good point.
conflicts with that.
Okay, so never mind.
Jen and then Nick.
I can do that time, so if someone, Nick, if you don't want it, or if you, but
Well, you need to.
if you.
I was just gonna say, I could
anyway.
also do that time,
Oh,
but
so we-
it's not of that significant interest to me, so if it's something
Oh,
you're
but we
excited
need
about.
to.
Well, we need
Anyway.
two,
Oh.
and David has indicated that it was a challenge for
Right.
him, so.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, and
I
Okay.
can't do the Tuesday night,
That's fine,
so.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and I
Yeah, perfect.
can't really do that.
Again, still have.
I think the point with to have the two school committee members was to tag team them.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
There's certainly no need for two school committee
Go
members
each
to be
time.
present at each
Great.
meeting, as it's just about getting more coverage, which didn't work apparently with, with me and MJ.
All right, so we'll make the Wellness Advisory Committee, Dr. Bryson, Mr. Golden, and both attend, one attend. Okay. CPAC, currently Mr. Ragsdale.
So I'm willing to stay as the CPAC representative, but also if someone else is interested in learning more about special education and the work that our Special Education Advisory Council does in putting on events and workshops for the district. I learned a ton about special education when I first joined the committee by being the CPAC representative. But I'm willing to stay.
Any interest? That wasn't one of Mike's, was it? Nope.
No.
Nope. Nope. Okay. David, you can keep that one.
Okay.
Executive session minutes is the chair. All right, legislative representatives was Ms. Burns and Dr. McCaldy, who has indicated that he would like to stay. Is there any other interest in
I knew that.
Mr. Golden?
So, I actually really like the legislature for a lot of reasons. It's a cool place, as we've kind of discussed.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed kind of being on the receiving end of letter writing advocacy and visits to the State House. So now being on the other end on behalf of the school district would be really fun. So
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think to Dr. McCauley's point, it is, MJ did a lot of work on that, and I think it's sort of poised to take the next step. So, you know, especially with somebody who's got some experience in the building.
Yeah.
So I think that's great.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Handbook Protocol Subcommittee. Currently, Dr. Bryson, Mr. Samaha, and Ms. Burns. And Dr. McCauley has indicated an interest in this one, so. How do you guys feel? Terrific. That's great.
We've done a lot of work on it.
Wow.
I would prefer to actually, I mean, I think it'd be great if Mike wants to take the lead on that. I think I probably should
Step away from that one.
think, yeah, but,
MJ did start updates on it, if you remember, several months ago.
okay. But, so I'm happy to continue, but if, it kind of goes nicely with policy, but if other people are anxious to get in there, I'm fine stepping away.
Jay?
Is there a crossover? There probably should be one member where there's a crossover between handbook and policy. I mean, there doesn't have to be, but I think that makes sense.
Mm.
That's me then. Are you on policy?
That's you. No, I'm not policy.
Okay.
So that's.
What's policy now? It's you
That
and
would be
me.
you, Dr.
I mean, is there somebody?
Jen, David, Jesse, Steven's the alternate.
Okay.
Does anyone else want it? No. Looks like it's us and Mike. That's fine.
So,
The two of us.
you
So
two.
the two of us.
And we'll add, and Mike will essentially replace MJ. No interest from this side of the table?
He'll be the chair.
Okay. And Mike, and Mike can spearhead it. Very good. Okay.
Mike gets to be the organizer. He has ideas.
All right. Town Hall School Administration Building Representative, currently myself, Mr. Turner. I think the bulk of the work is done. I'd like to see that through to completion. So unless anybody really wants a spot on that, I think we'll keep that the same.
Stephen was listed as an alternate, is that correct?
Stephen was listed as an alternate and came to all the meetings, and then George Hooper, I think, gave him voting rights, so.
Yeah, I kind of just, like, my way
Happens
into the
sometimes, you
table.
just keep
and-
showing up and they let you vote.
At first, he went to more of them than I did, for full disclosure, but, okay. So we'll keep that one the same. MSBA Wildwood School Building Committee is Mr. Ragsdale and Ms. Burns, with Dr. McCauley as an alternate. So I imagine you're interested in staying.
Yeah, in reality, it's really been me. And I would like to get a second person who's, who's like really coming to all the meetings and that will get sworn in as a voting member. I would like to increase school committee representation on the school building committee.
Did Dr. McCauley express his opinion? Because that one, that was the one he didn't mention. He's currently listed as the alternate. Did he give you a sense in his
He didn't
email
say
either way?
anything- Didn't say anything about
I
it.
think he ever attended any of them.
Yeah, I don't think he.
Oh, you first,
Well, I
and
have
then
a
you.
question, because I'm going to meetings about this. So I'm like, so what am I going to? I know I'm not on this, but I'm going to the meetings
For the educational, yeah,
for the educational plan, right, programming,
and
So-
space, yeah.
which I really enjoy. Does that make sense to then have someone who sits there be here as well?
Here as well.
In which case, one of us
Let's go do it,
could do it, or both, right? I mean, if Mike doesn't want to do it,
yeah.
could we have two people do it? I guess I'm just trying to, what's best for the project? Does it make sense to pull it together
I think so.
or not?
I mean, I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
I also think that any school committee member could also
Sure.
join and be an effective
I've-
member.
Yeah.
We're much more up to date and have been kept regularly informed throughout this process, so it's not nearly the kind of catch up, get up to speed that it might be with like someone else truly starting, new on the committee. But I think that would certainly make perfect sense for someone to do that, but it could be someone else who has interest as well.
So let me ask this for the committee's sake. If, let's say, we make the committee essentially David, Jen, and Stephen, and remove Mike, that doesn't have any I mean, it wouldn't, but quorum implications or membership on that committee, like,
No.
there's no concern about that, so,
No.
I mean,
No, I think the key thing, as Mr. Ragsdale said, is we need consistency and the
Right.
ability for folks to be there. We're coming up to a very critical point in the next few months, so to have a presence, which will amount to one meeting a month, which will continue, but, it's a critical time period obviously coming up.
I would recommend listing Stephen as an alternate because it would conflict with WEF if they're gonna maintain their meetings on Tuesday nights. 'cause
Yeah.
WEF was
Right.
I was gonna ask, what time is the
6:30.
usually
6:30.
6:30.
6:30? Yeah, I should be the alternate then. if
Committees.
That's okay.
Is it every Tuesday?
No, WEF,
No, once a month.
they're both
Once a
once a
month.
month.
Once a month.
Well, actually, WEF is second Tuesday. Is this one first or second? Or fourth or
Looks
12th?
like based on this, it's the 4th.
Yeah.
It shouldn't conflict then. Thank you, that's a good point, but they're usually second Tuesdays, so
Okay, so I
it's the
think,
only one I might do more meetings.
I think we'll keep, we'll
The
keep,
next school building committee is on the 28th,
yeah,
And what time are those typically?
6:30.
6:30. All right, so we'll keep Mr. Ragsdale.
So I actually can't, so that's the selectmen meeting, I can't even go to that one. So I guess if Mr. Golden wants to do,
I'd be very interested just because
yeah,
we worked a little bit on like some school construction stuff on the State House, actually, in the office where I worked, so.
Okay, so Mr. Ragsdale, Mr. Golden, and Mr. Turner as our alternate.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna continue on the educational visioning at least until that concludes.
That's pretty much wrapped
Pretty
up,
much wrapping up,
up.
yeah.
There's one.
There's a point of information just to
Please.
clarify, it's because I have a regular first Tuesday of the month that's outside of the school committee. This is the fourth Tuesday of the month, as we know, with the most recent meeting detail.
At least as
it
the
reads.
future school committee
Well,
dates are, these
Pull up
look like the
website,
4th.
It actually has the.
Yeah, we have the
school
dates.
The dates.
meeting dates through
Yeah, it's the
next
28th,
year, so
then-
December.
Then June 25th.
And your, I'm sorry, Nick, your commitment's on the first Tuesday?
Yeah.
It looks like that should be okay.
Okay, great. Good to me.
We're good?
I think that's fine, yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with that. And
Moving
now,
on.
can I just
Oh, please.
but we can all go.
Yeah.
We should sometimes go.
Yeah, yeah.
There are, but
But it is.
these are gonna be
sorry.
essentially the voting
Yes,
members.
yes,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah, okay. Good, good. Okay, that brings us to Family Communications / Relations Subcommittee. Looks like there's only 2 of you, and it's Dr. Bryson and Mr. Samaha. I feel like you guys are on a lot of subcommittees together. Thoughts?
I mean, I really, really want to stay on equity. And I think it's just so hard when you're doing so many different ones to do them all well. And I guess I'm wondering if there's a way to sort of combine equity and outreach. Christine saying yes. She's like, yes, you should totally do that.
So are
I
you,
think
there's-
are you
I think
suggesting
I
that?
think you're right that, there's been an incredible amount of crossover
Mhm.
between those two, and it's you and I on
Right.
both of those
Right.
subcommittees as well.
I just think if we
So,
were to combine it, it might make more sense.
Can we do that?
Equity
Yes,
and
there are.
outreach
Can we
subcommittee.
just change it, merge it?
I mean, 2 years ago, we just decided we're gonna have a finance and budget subcommittee, so we can, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure we can just combine them.
Just combine?
Yeah, nothing requires us to have any
Call
of these
it-
committees.
Yep. Call it equity and outreach?
And, yeah, something of that sort.
And I think that fits nicely with our strategic plan, like, I
Yeah.
think there's a piece in there.
And then that removes
Okay.
the one prior, the communications relations, since you're combining
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that, we're replacing that with, yeah.
the combined.
All right, so 2-part sort of comment. First being that we are essentially gonna take equity and communications and combine them as one subcommittee.
Mhm.
Good. Membership is currently you 2 and Mr. Turner. And I know you guys have strong thoughts about staying, so that's okay. Mr. Turner?
I very much enjoy the work of the subcommittee. If somebody else wanted to, and there needed to be a new third person, I would be okay with that, but I think there's a lot of good opportunity with that subcommittee, and recent momentum as well. I'm okay.
Anybody?
I think this also benefits from continuity.
I agree. Dr. Brand, did you want to say something?
I just want to bring to your attention, your policy on subcommittees of the school committee, policy BDE. You just may want to be considerate of that relative to the action here, which I think you can totally do, but there is language and guidance around the dissolving a committee. So you may want to my read of this is you may want to consider either taking a vote to approve the merging or amalgam, however you want to define that.
Sure.
You may not, just bring that to your attention, you may want to.
No, thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Turner?
Can I make a motion to create a subcommittee called Equity and Community, or Community Communications, and replace the two prior committees?
Okay, motion, second, Dr. Bryson?
Well, no, because I wanted it to, I think equity and outreach was what.
That's
Clea
the
said.
words.
Is that okay?
I amend my motion to say what she said.
Okay, so that, hold on, so that we get this right, you're moving to.
Yes.
Merge two committees in order to create equity and outreach subcommittee.
Thank you. Second, Dr. Bryson. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Brandt, for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Okay, so that covers family communication and equity. Last on the subcommittee list is finance and budget. Dr. Bryson, Mr. Turner, Mr. McCaldy, or Dr. McCaldy, excuse me, with myself as the alternate. Mike wants to stay. Jen, Steve?
I'm happy to step down if someone else would like to do it.
Okay.
So two thoughts. One, we learned a lot of lessons in the first 2 years with that subcommittee.
Sure.
I think we have some ideas for how to engage better next year.
Okay.
I would be very okay with others taking that forward. I know Dr. Marcaldi has expressed interest in staying. I'd be okay with staying for continuity reasons, but I also, if others have interest in it, it is a good learning experience for sure in terms of the details of the budget process.
Sure.
So either way would be okay for me.
Okay. Mrs. Maha?
I'm actually interested in that subcommittee, but I do also recognize the need for continuity and to build on the work that that subcommittee has already done. So.
Keep Turner and you.
Yeah, I think you can take my spot.
Take your spot. Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Thoughts? Okay, so Mr. Samaha, you can have Dr. Bryson's spot. Mr. Turner, you're okay with staying?
Yeah.
As is Dr. McCauley, so.
Are you staying on as an alternate, Jesse?
No, I don't think I was ever able to make those meetings, so we can add an alternate if we.
I don't think we do.
With three people, do we need an alternate with three people on the?
Can't hurt to have one, especially with the budget meetings, but. Dr. Bryson, stay as the alternate?
I'll stay as an alternate,
Okay.
yeah. Would you? Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions on subcommittees? Very good. That concludes old business. Other reports, any subcommittee reports? Nope, okay,
Actually, I'm sorry, no.
please.
Do we?
Oh, did you guys meet tonight?
We met tonight, but what I wanted to do is offer a little more clarity. I sort of reported a little bit out last time, and I just wanted to add a couple things
Great.
About our May 8th equity subcommittee. So the subcommittee met and we discussed some of the recent events at the middle school. We talked about sort of the process and the protocols that the administration has taken to deal with the hate situations at the middle school. There were some classroom conversations, and it's part of a bigger process that that administration at the middle school and at the district level is working through. We also discussed a need to take a look at the data for the district in terms of sort of infractions, incidents, sort of discipline data, and sort of disaggregate that by the categories, including, gender, race, students with disabilities. So we're continuing our sort of dive into this, into these areas. So, are there questions?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Isn't that discipline data already required to be reported to DESE?
Yes.
So don't we already have that disaggregated by category,
Yes.
subgroups?
Yes, so we have it, because it's entered into Aspen and then entered into, through our portal, but we also have it in another platform that we can filter easily for reports.
Yeah, I think that the data that we're looking for is, it's a little more granular than what gets reported at the state level. We're going a little more in-depth.
Okay. Other questions? All right, thank you. Any other subcommittee reports? Okay, I don't know who I should ask about correspondence.
None this evening.
Thank you. Future school committee dates and notable items, May 28th, Wildwood School Building Committee meeting at 6:30 PM. Same day, performance of the 4th and 5th grade strings at 7 PM on the town commons, fingers crossed for nice weather. May 30th, senior athletic awards in the high school auditorium at 6 PM. May 31st, high school academic awards scholarship night at 6:30 PM in the gym, right? June 2nd, class of 2024 graduation here. Hope again for good weather so we can be outside. June 12th, the next regular session meeting of the school committee is here at 7 PM. June 13th, middle school 8th grade moving on ceremony, 6:30 PM on the common, weather permitting. June 14th, the last day of school for the school year, half day. And on June 25th, Wildwood School Building Committee meeting at 6:30 PM. Mr. Turner, how do we do?
Very well. There is the undergraduate awards as well on June 6th. I believe it's at 6:30 PM for the high school.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I don't know how, do we ask for motion and then read it, right?
Yes.
All right. So with that, we'd be looking for a motion. The Wilmington School Committee will enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and the chair so declares. Administrative/individual contract salaries. The Wilmington School Committee will not enter into regular session following the executive session. Mr. Golden, is there a second? Mr. Turner, roll call. Mr. Ragsdale?
Yes.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Samaha?
Yes.
Dr. Bryson? And I'm a yes. That is unanimous. We are adjourned to executive session. Good night, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good
Night.
night.